Hello everybody, this is Dale with BLUELINE Enterprises. There's a blue line that follows that torch.
You're looking at that blue line every single day.
Build it the way it needs to be built. There's no shortcuts. Hello everybody, this is Dale D's BLUELINE Enterprises, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Jay Collup here. Jay Collup is an industry professional. This was a machine that was highly sought after once the word started getting out, because it was a clear departure from what at the time our competitors were offering, right?
I have used Grizzlies that looked like this, but again, they weren't this, because they weren't built this way. So you learn pretty early about the cleaning capability and the blinding over capabilities.
From an engineering standpoint, it was torturous. I mean, I was like terrified. Oh, how am I going to afford to build one of these things, you know?
Yeah.
And that has to do with all the parts, putting a side spillage plate on. Everything that we've had to do was an embellishment to make it right, and I knew it would give us a better result. Build it the way it needs to be built to accomplish the result that we're looking for. And there's no shortcuts.
And you said this thing's been out here for 16 years?
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy, because I know of a handful of Grizzlies that are less than a year old that are destroyed.
We're gonna roll around the Verde Valley, Jay, and we're gonna see a bunch more of these.
This has got a smaller screen deck in it, and it's still clean. So they're using this to make that fine material we see stacked up right there. Most competitors, even ones that have vibratories on them, don't run this clean.
So this is a 3/4 yard. It's a 10-inch minus. If you take the deck reducer off of there, it's a 3-inch deck reducer, which is over here laying up on the hill. It's got an 1.5 inch square opening screen overlay, which is what's there now.
Yep.
Okay. And so what that would give you is, just as a matter of conversation, that would give you 10-inch plus rip wrap like we've seen over there, what they're scalping out with that one. Just because they've got two, they can use it that way. 10 plus clean, 10 minus in the box. You'll take that 10 minus, you'll park it over here, you'll put that 3-inch screen overlay on there, deck reducer, and you'll process your 10 minus. It'll give you 3 to 10 clean, and then 3 minus.
Yep.
Okay, and then you take the 3-inch deck reducer off, you put the 1.5 inch screen overlay on top. It'll give you 1.5 inch minus in the box for road base or whatever that material is right there, and 1 to 3 clean, 1.5 to 3 clean, which will give you like French drains,
Yep.
you know, septic tank rock, leach rock, this kind of thing.
What I really liked about the ability to change those was how quick.
Yeah.
It's so simple. You just roll in here with your bucket, grab it, and just curl your bucket back, and it comes right off. Set it on, and then just back off and let it go.
And off you go.
Let it go, and it's got the self guides in there. It's gonna center itself. It's gonna put it in place where it needs to go every single time, and it's not falling off. You can tip this thing pretty far over, and that deck's not coming off.
It's not coming off there,
So,
especially if you have a safety bar in this. This screen overlay is designed just like our deck reducer, where it has that kinetic shift deck action, where we're going to drive forward here, we're going to lift this up out of its nest, and we're going to let the bucket fall and let the screen slam back down. When that happens, it vibrates the screen and it just knocks it clean. And then it's the natural angle of repose. If they're working it on level ground, it's got the right shed angle.
So many of these manufacturers, they put those decks flush on the bars. Why is that a problem? I'm gonna answer you, and then you tell me if I'm wrong. By putting it on there, and fastening them down solid by either bolts or welding it to it, it takes any of that vibration capability away. So even if you bumped it, it's not gonna vibrate because it's not gonna resonate across it. But number two, you're taking the ability for that string to flex and move like it needs to allow the material to naturally fall off without having to hit the structure of the machine or the unit to make it work. Am I wrong?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So if you introduce your vibration, that's going to work in your favor. It's going to work to your advantage of the machine. If you subdue that vibration, well, vibration's your friend.
Yeah.
In this case.
It is. Even if it's dry powder fluff material, it's still going to just stick and stay and not fall out.
Yep.
And then next thing you do, you got divots in the front up here where he's jamming the bucket up in your top structure.
That's
here,
right. Trying to get it clean.
He's trying to get it to tip, right? He's trying to tip this thing to get the material to fall off, and then next thing you know, all your good material, which this is fantastic stuff right here. Like you could build lots of stuff with
That's
that.
right. That's right.
It's all back there, and you're not using it.
And they make that pile. They made that pile right there in a matter of a week. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't take much. You know.
Yeah.
You just spend the time.
At some point, where we need to start talking about dollars and cents. How a customer can start saving money by doing this, and having the ability to screen out their own product, and what does this mean per yard, and what does it cost per yard? As a business owner, you're looking at it and you're like, well, what do I need to screen for? What purpose is it going to serve me? Well, if you can screen out material on site and it's going to cost you $5 to $10 a yard to do it, how much cheaper is it to do that than it is to haul that material in? Because you're not going to buy material for $5 to $10 a yard.
No.
And then with trucking costs today,
it's just not even reasonable.
if I was able to do it on site and screen my material, how much more money am I putting in my pocket? Because at the end of the day, I can still charge my customer that rate for that material, because this is good dirt. This is good material that we can use to build house pads. We can build building pads. You can
use the native soil.
Right. That's right.
Local native soil that you're working on to reconsolidate it for your structures, your substructures, your subgrade, your above subgrade, and then your topsoils, your fill
and then
soils.
your landscaping on the backside.
Landscaping. And a lot of these guys, they'll stay right here and then they'll sell this material to other contractors.
Yeah.
So, and not only are they selling the material that the real estate that they've got available to them,
They're probably hauling their dirt here, screening it, and then hauling
selling
it
it back to them,
Yeah.
even, and or renting the
and
Grizzly
getting paid both ways.
and renting it to their buddies.
Yeah.
I mean, this Grizzly right here will bring you $1,800 a month.
Yeah,
So I mean, it just depends on your location, who you're doing business with.
for sure.
But it's worth it because the machine produces it.
This thing's cute.
It is cute, huh?
What's cool about this though is you take the same structural integrity that you have on those big ones, and you still imply it here, knowing that it's not going to get the same abuse. But I mean, I could see people making topsoil with this, doing composting with this. This could be a landscaping company's dream to have sitting in their yard for mixing different soils.
It is the landscaping class, Grizzly. It's going to work with your smaller Kubota type tractors, and it functions exactly the same. And we do build it again with the structural integrity, knowing that it's not going to take the abuse, but it's going to be a family heirloom.
Yeah.
Usually when we talk about farm and garden, we're talking about family tradition, you know, and the assets that families build up over the years.
For sure.
I mean, this is one that somebody's grandson's going to have
That's what
someday.
I was thinking their grandkids are.
Here comes Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Come on up. This is Jay Collup.
Nice to meet you.
This is Kathy McCabe.
So I have a couple of questions because I have lots of thoughts on how you're going to how you use this.
I have a garden down by the chicken yard, and Dave, he used our tractor to dig up like 18 inches so we could get all the grass roots out. So he would just dump it on there, and actually we were using that
The 2
other
inch.
screen. It's like a 2-inch, and getting all the grass roots and rocks out, and then putting the good dirt back in. And then we have an arena down below that he's been taking like the top layer off. It's been a pretty handy tool to smooth things out and get some good dirt to fill in areas
Sure.
and stuff. After we got the rocks and the grass out, then he would take a scoop of that and a scoop of that and pour it over again and make one big pile.
Yeah.
And
And
then I
it turned
could
out
get-
pretty good soil.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I got a pretty good crop of tomatoes and
Nice.
peppers. That's what I grow every year, but It's been really handy in the arena, though,
Yeah.
because you don't want to practice your horse with a lot of rocks.
No.
It was a lot easier than the way we did it with a shovel in
For
the
sure.
past. Yeah, I feel really special that we got this. I'm just like, Dill, we really need that.
How about that? You're pretty smooth on that operating.
Shoot, that thing's. Wait till you see me on a real one.
Uh-huh.
Man, I make a good product. The stuff that, I mean, it's nice.
I mean, this is just soil right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
That's garden soil right there, you know?
It did its job for sure.
Absolutely. This happens to be our skid steer model. I'd like to thank Jay Collup for demonstrating it for us. This is a Grizzly. It was made in, well, 2022, first of the year. Ooh, look at there. That's 00.
That's a big ass Grizzly right there. You know, the reason why I'm here today is to, number one, to see it, because that doesn't exist. I'm just looking at the clean pile of rock on the backside of it, which is just a little bit of rock, but just looking at the backside here, that right there, that's a high value product, right? And I don't know what, if you sell that or if you're gonna crush that or, so you know you could sell that as decorative rock, right? Yesterday, Dale's been driving me around the valley here and going and looking at the different iterations, right? So this morning we actually got to see screen number 3 that he ever built, the 3rd screen he ever did. And I walk up to it, and now that I'm a little more educated on it, I'm like, I see all the points that we're talking about and why all these points, because what he built, that 3rd one, was just like everything else we've seen, where it just didn't have the supports in it. It didn't have that trough at the bottom like you're talking about. So rock hangs up everywhere. And I'm pointing this stuff out, and Dale's like, you're getting it. You're getting it.
You're getting it. You're seeing it.
I want to go look at it. I love this. This thing's amazing, dude.
You like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's coming from you, man. That means a lot. Seriously.
Look how clean this is. There's no fines coming off. The only reason why there was any fines coming off is because he's stacked up on the inside. It's cleaning all the crevices because it's coming down, it's sliding, it's beating and banging, and all that fine is falling off and it's going in the box.
Right.
So then it's usable. Pictures do not do this thing justice for just the sheer magnitude of what this actually is, right? But I wanted to just talk through a couple things with you real quick, right?
bet.
So there's a question that is going to come up from people that want to know a little bit more information, and something that the end user is going to ask and they need to know what type of maintenance things do they need to pay attention to so that they can have it readily available for themselves, such as, is there wear items, is there anything of that nature that they need to know about, have on hand, to where when it is time to do some sort of preventative maintenance on the machine, they have this stuff on hand to be able to do it?
You know, that's a good question. As a rule, the Blue Line Grizzly is maintenance free. So when we start talking about aggressive environments, like what Gigantic is in now, okay, where you can see this rock it's a very aggressive shot rock. It's angular. It's just very, it's going to bring a wear factor into the machine that we need to consider. When we start talking about Grizzlies, we start talking about the Blue Line Rock Grizzly, we're talking about a machine that is virtually maintenance free, okay, maintenance free. And why would that be? That would be because if it's designed right, which this one is, it's going to have a free flow of material. It's not going to blind. And if it's not blinding, it's not having a tractor attack. What do I mean by
let's stop
tractor
right there
attacks?
real quick.
Okay.
Let's talk about that free flow, because we want to make sure that people understand what free flow is and why it's important when we're talking about a Grizzly.
So in our case, you know, we build a a Grizzly that is self-cleaning. Well, that takes a design that will allow material to freely flow across the deck, efficiently split the material, and have absolutely no blinding issues. So if the Grizzly's not plugging up, we're not experiencing aggravated operators, which will then come and aggressively attack the Grizzly because it's plugged up and they want to clear it out again.
Correct.
So the free flow of material across it is critical to the function of the machine. It goes to the safety because we don't have rocks hung up in the deck where we've got to clean them out. Let's just say the man gets off the tractor, he gets up underneath, and he's trying to knock rocks out. One falls down, gets him on top of the head or on the shoulder, anything like that. Or he's not crawling around the burden pile to get up there and doing anything, which will give ankle twist, back twist, potential to fall down and hurt themselves in any number of ways. So it goes to safety, it goes to service life. Service life is directly related to tractor attacks, not so much the material being processed over it, okay?
Most Grizzlies that look rattered, tattered, beaten to a pulp is more from tractor attacks, because I agree with you.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, because you know, it plugs up. The first thing you do is you hit it with the bucket as hard as you can to get it to try to vibrate, and if that don't work, you come around the backside and try to scrape it down, and now you're putting all the weight of the tractor on the Grizzly, which it's not designed for that kind of weight. So if I'm understanding free flow correctly, as you dump your material over the edge, you want that material to hit the deck and then slide across it without hang up, without being slowed down, without impeding that process whatsoever, correct?
That's exactly right. Most Grizzly designs have a horizontal obstruction in the structure of their design. So what we've done is we've eliminated any place that a rock can come down and stop, okay? But if you had an option and you called any Grizzly vendor out there in the world and you said, hey, I want to invest in a rock Grizzly, mostly because I want to make money with it, but there's a chance it's going to be in my legacy. It's going to be in my lineage. I'm going to hand it down to my grandson, that type of thing. Is your Grizzly going to plug up? That's the first question that should be asked. And if they can't answer that honestly, they're trying to sell you a 3-egg-a-day chicken.
Which is impossible.
This is impossible. Exactly right. And so all this gets back down to performance, right? So performance. We invest in the things that's going to be the best investment for the money spent.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
And so that's been our philosophy, our guiding philosophy is to build a machine that works for the end user.
Yeah.
Right. And performance, safety, service life, and reputation, right, are the 4 guiding principles that we design into every Grizzly before it leaves our yard.
When that screen is able to be productive because the operator is not having to stop and clean it out, or you're getting a good end product because it's actually doing its job correctly, and he's not having to stop, clean it out, rake it down, all these other pieces, which then every time he has to do that, productivity goes down, but also quality goes down, right?
That's right.
Because when you start wedging rocks and you start getting them in there, you may have started with an 8-inch gap, but now you may have a 9-inch gap, and then a 10-inch gap, and then a 12-inch gap, and now you've got goonies down underneath where you want a good clean product. You don't have that, so your end product either has to be rescreened again, or you're selling something to the end user that is not what they're wanting to pay for, so then your quality is not there. And there's a whole lot that goes into this free flow. That's why I wanted you to hit on that just a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You know, so think about it like this. In this case, I think this 992's cycling on this one at about every 35 seconds. Not bad for 16-yard machine, okay? That's because this machine is efficiently splitting the material. You'll see it the first 1/3 of that deck. The stuff that's going into the box is already disappearing into the box at the top 1/3, and you'll notice everything else is the riprap that's coming off the front. That's how efficient that deck is, even though it has the opportunity to come all the way down to fall in. So that's that free flow conversation I'm talking about.
Right.
Okay, where the Grizzly deck itself is so efficient at splitting the material, not hanging up the rock, and then working as fast as gravity will let it work. You got the benefit of all the best combination of features that you could have on one static machine.
Dale, you mentioned just previously about building something for a lifetime. What do you mean by this is built for a lifetime?
Okay, so you can go out into the world and you can see Grizzlies everywhere. I mean, once it's into your psyche, you'll start seeing them. And I'm talking about, if you're thinking about Grizzlies, they're everywhere. So because it's steel, it's going to last a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's going to function for a long time. So when I say built for a lifetime, what I mean is a lifetime of serviceability, productive serviceability. In other words, it's going to perform exactly as represented from the first bucket, and who knows where the last bucket is. That's what I mean. It's going to be generational. It's going to be intergenerational,
mm-hmm.
because there's no tractor tax required.
Right.
So it's just working the material, and that'll take a while to wear this thing down to nothing.
Yeah. So one more question, Dale, before we really dive in and do a walk around on this thing. What other safety things are built into this that we may have not already talked about?
Can we walk around the Grizzly?
100%.
Let's go for a walk. So when we load the Grizzly onto a trailer to transport it from one location to another, what we have are tie down points right here that we can lock this machine or any in the scale of our machines. They lock down efficiently. So tying it down is a factor that's a safety factor. Right up here at the medallion plate, okay, that's where you're going to find the serial number, just as a matter of conversation. But that's actually a structural member. If you come around here, let me show you. What we have here is a mid-span bar. And this mid-span bar right here is how we do several things. We strategically gusset the Grizzly deck from underneath at that location. And so what that does is that transfers structural value all along that bar, both laterally and horizontally, okay? So we've increased a factor of strength on that bar. That mid-span bar is recessed a certain distance. And when we come up under here with a bucket and to pick this thing up and move it over across a job site, the weight of the Grizzly and the way it attaches to that bucket is the best in the industry. This Grizzly will not fall off of this tractor when it's moving it around. The other factor on safety is going to be, this is this Grizzly in its natural state. There's no rocks hung up in there. So I can imagine the owner of this mine site, if they seen rocks up under here, I mean, imagine we're 16 feet tall and I'm up under here talking about it and he's getting nervous because there's a rock going to fall down. Well, there's no rocks. And so there's no reason for somebody to get excited if we're up under here for some reason. So the safety factors all come together,
yeah,
to take pressure off the insurances and things that people have to spend money on in business.
I really like the point of the transportability, because when we look at other screens and how they're built, when you go to pick them up, you can't carry them level. You've got to have them at a oblong angle, right? And so you go in with your bucket at a weird angle, and then you rack it back. Well, what that does is that puts your bottom corners down in the ground, and so if you go over any type of undulation or whatever, you hit one and then the whole thing falls off. Now you've caused damage to your lift cylinders or to your boom cylinders, or even the boom itself, right? And depending on the size of the machine, you may actually wipe out hydraulic lines and hoses and things of that nature. And so the ability to come in here and grab this and hold it flat and level off the ground and maintain that and be able to go up and over an edge and go down a grade and still maintain control of this behemoth, that's a huge piece of safety that I'm really glad that you thought of that as you were building these, so that the end user can move this from this location. Maybe he needs to go 3 or 4 benches higher, mm-hmm. which we can't see this on the video, but there's literally 3 or 4 benches above us that maybe he needs to go up there to screen for a little while, and he can do that fairly easily by just coming in here and picking this thing up and being able to carry it level and go wherever he needs to go on the mine site to go do the work that this is designed to do.